Okay, we should be now. Okay, we should be now live.
Fucking, we'll do it live.
Right. Okay, this is now live. So welcome to another edition of the Supernatural Side Salad Show, and hopefully there won't be any technical difficulties this time. So we're going to be discussing the migrant crisis in Europe. Hopefully we'll get a few diverse opinions on this subject. So, does anyone want to start and give an opinion on the situation? Okay, we should be now.
Well, I just wanted to ask. Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if some of you have already read
this is now live.
The article from
welcome to another edition of the Supernatural Side Salad Show.
Has anybody read that?
And hopefully there won't be any technical difficulties this time. So we're going to be
no. So basically, it's it's just how to say. I hate to use this word, but it's just exposing one of the how the media lies about this Syrian boy who drowned and whose corpse was discovered in the Turkish beach, and yeah, basically they are saying that the guy who wanted to come to, I don't know, to Europe, I don't know which country, that he's not a refugee, he's just an economic co-migrant who wanted a new pair of teeth, and they based this claim of the sister of the sister of the father of the baby. And then also there's another lie, which is that the Canadian government refused the asylum demand from the auntie. But the problem is that the Canadian government said that there was no asylum demand applied here. I don't know if I rambled well enough, if this is understandable, but yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say.
So does anyone else want to chip in here? I think there's largely two different kinds of people. There's people that are more sympathetic to the situation, and there's people that are I guess not necessarily unsympathetic to migrants, but refugees, but are quite skeptical of economic migrants. So what's people's views on all this?
Well, if people are leaving a war zone and they want to leave a war zone, they shouldn't be hindered in any way. If you don't want them in your country, that's one thing. Just let them pass on through, but let them get the fuck out of the way of the war.
Well, there's how to say. I think that this distinction should be made in the beginning. It's asylum seekers, refugees, and economical migrants. Because when people try to lump all these terms in the word migrants, it's just misleading, I think. So yeah, that's basically one of the points. And also, yeah, I mean, people who are fleeing war, of course, we should, I think that Europe should have the duty to let them in. I don't think that anyone in this room, I may be wrong, but I don't think that anyone who is reasonable would be or empathetic for the situation in Syria. I don't think that anyone is against a refugee, but the fact that people are anti-migrant, it gives some weapons to the pro-migration lobby that say, yeah, you are anti-refugees, so you are anti-migrant. No, you are anti-migrant, so you are anti-refugees. No, that's not slightly true, I think so. Yeah. And I am a little skeptical about economical migrants, but I think that the main problem of migration, it's just the assimilation problem. I mean, there's a reason why we don't talk a lot about the Asian community in the US or in Europe, and we talk a lot about the different sorts of Muslim community, because they don't want to assimilate. They want to have another culture. They want to have their parallel Sharia court. So I think that is the main problem here.
Well, my opinion on the migrant crisis can be compared to the modern day version of Ellis Island.
Want to perhaps elaborate on that a little bit?
I don't think it's comparable because, you know, migrants aren't coming into a giant island just to come into one particular country. They're coming in however they can, wherever they can. But America basically welcomed every Irish immigrant, Irish and Italian immigrant that they could during that era. So I think the situation is a lot different.
I certainly think it's important to keep distinction between, yeah, refugees and migration. You know, I mean, people, as just said, I mean, they're fleeing war zone. I mean, their lives are at risk. You know, it's pretty admirable how Germany's responded in the way they have, and the amount of money and people they're willing to take in. It's sort of a bit shameful. Some of the other Western countries around the world sort of taking in a certain number of them, but usually at the expense of other migrant numbers in some parts of the world.
Well,
hasn't Australia been fairly reluctant to take many in the way of migrants or refugees? Well, I guess Australia is.
Well, it's an interesting one recently. Recently, the most recent government has been in power for 2 years. They reduced the total number of people that we took in from overseas, if you can count all forms of migration, I guess. It was up at 20,000 roughly per year, and then when they came into power, they've reduced the number back down to 11,000, just over 11,000, and then just this last week with the Syrian border crisis, have come out and said, "Oh, we're graciously taking in 12,000 Syrian refugees," but all they're doing is taking in an extra 3,000 or 4,000 more than what we would have been doing had the previous government remained in power. So it's sort of like just trying to make themselves look like they're doing more than what they are, because they're able to quote that they're taking specifically 12,000 Syrian refugees.
Quantum, what's my word? I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think sometime in the 80s or 90s, didn't the United Kingdom take in a massive amount of African migrants from war-torn parts of Africa?
Are you referring to the Tutsi genocide?
Yes, I am.
I actually honestly don't know the answer to that. I think I know the tragedy that you're referring to, but I don't really know whether we took in any migrants. Could you just mute your microphone, because it's getting quite a bit of feedback. Thanks. So did you know anything about it, or have a point to make on that basis?
Not really. Is my microphone working?
Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit of feedback from
Nicola.
I'll just.
Back.
Yeah.
We're just getting a little bit of feedback from you. Okay, so when you're not speaking, could you mute yourself so we don't get feedback? Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not you. Yeah.
Go ahead. You had a point you wanted to make, Angry.
Oh, I was saying, with the Tutsi Rwanda genocide. In the United Kingdom, I think France took like over, and Sweden took many migrants within a few days before it broke out, like in the thousands.
I mean, typically, I don't know what's the sort of view in the various parts of the world where you guys all live. I mean, over here, there seems to be sort of a feeling of a lot of people like, oh, look after our own people before we start worrying about people overseas. I don't know. Is that shared in other countries that you guys?
Can you repeat the question because I didn't listen very well.
Oh, so, well, does anyone else in your countries, like from where you're from, wherever you're living, wherever you're residing, what's the feeling about, governments and what their role should be? Your government's role in, refugees, essentially. So, do they think that they should be?
Well, I can speak for two countries because I live back and forth between Italy and the United States.
Sure.
And currently, people in Italy are taking in migrants in their houses because they're religious. Like I think they're religious left wingers who, like Pope Francis, have been taking in migrants into their households.
Oh yeah, it's a very proactive approach. That's
well, I can speak for France because last week there was a channel, BFM TV, who did a poll and found out that the majority of people didn't want this refugee fluctuation. Didn't want it that many of these refugee, I think it was 54% or something. I don't remember well. But after the photo of the Syrian boy has been released, 9% have switched sides. So now in France, there is a majority that indeed want to take want to share the responsibility to take the refugees, but it's still a tiny majority. So
that's fascinating. That image reminds me of I don't know the actual title of the image, but there's an image from the Vietnam War, and it's a young girl, and she's basically just running terrified down the street that's devastated by the war, and it's something that influenced many people's opinions at the time about the Vietnam War. It's interesting how sometimes if you actually show people and get them up close to the human side of what's actually taking place, like look at these people, they're just as humans and they're going through this trauma, it can turn a lot of people around, I think.
Well, I'm not a historian or something, but in the Vietnam War, is it true that before televisions back then, they really filmed every events of what happened in the war, that people in television have got detailed accounts of what happened in the war?
Basically, before the Vietnam War, there wasn't as anywhere near the type of extensive coverage that they were able to get during the Vietnam War. So the Vietnam War was really one of the first ones that they were reporting back to the US, day to day. There were people, filming footage, and so it allowed, I guess, some of the things that the US were doing on the ground, battle-wise, were being sort of shown to the public for perhaps the first time, and so it was sort of like it created a lot of diverging opinions about the war, I would say. But yeah, it was more just the first major war that they could have access to. I think basically that was the first one you could actually, film and send the footage somehow effectively back to the US. I'm not even sure if it was all I don't think it was television or anything like that. I think it was still papers and radio and that type of thing. But you guys might know more.
I'd just like to say that the media didn't have control of it, but the government did, and the government filtered what was put out because it was all military people filming it, so they could basically control it.
Yeah, I see.
Did any of you see what's his name again? Owen Jones from the Guardian's new video on the migrant crisis.
Nope.
Not sure his name.
Because he
Do you
got
want to talk us through it then? Do you want explain what points he was making?
he was making the points more from I think like from an anarcho-syndicalist perspective of that the idea of borders should be abolished in a very like a non-controversial way, but people in the comic section are just going at him for like the idea of like almost implying there shouldn't be borders for like almost like domestic trade between EU and like Asia and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd be well. We're experimenting in a global economy at the moment. That'd be having a global globe, I guess. You know, it's just. I mean, yeah, you feel like that would be a good way. Obviously, the most ideal way, if everyone could freely move about and just abide by a sort of general rule of law everywhere. But I mean, how's that going to happen in the next short space of time? I just can't see it possible.
I think that is a very idealist sort of position to hold. I don't think it's a very realistic position because countries have territories and lands, and they're not going to want giving up your borders is tantamount to just giving up your land, and I don't think countries will want to do that.
Oh yeah, and there's history and invested interest in different parts of the ground, in parts of the world, for example. You can imagine what would happen if, I don't know. Hey, everyone can come to Saudi Arabia.
I mean, I
Come
think
back to
there'll be real pragmatic issues with having a globe that doesn't have any borders. I mean, when you consider the economic differences and the language differences all across the world, to me it seems pretty unlikely that a borderless globe is anywhere possible, and at least until culturally and economically the standards of living across the planet are roughly the same. Otherwise, naturally you're going to get a flow of migrants from the poorer parts towards the rich parts if you don't have borders. So, I mean, that just it doesn't seem practical at the moment. I mean, I think Star Trek experienced the idea, but I think I think Star Trek was implying that no one in that world was, poor or anything like that. So
there's lots of towards as well something that Boris was talking about earlier. I find that there's people in Australia have hard enough time understanding what each other when each other are being rude or being impolite. Like, everyone has different standards in that department along the way, and they don't talk about enough like what it is to be polite in other cultures, because obviously if someone's what you think is polite to do when you're greeting someone, someone from another culture might not see that as being polite at all, obviously. And
I'm not sure.
They just miss the cues all the time. They miss the cues all the time, and it's like it would be good if people could, observe other cultures and learn them and understand them more, and get a good idea of the common sort of, I don't know, polite sort of things that we are all common throughout cultures, but are different within the cultures themselves.
There is an example with that. I'm not sure it's which country that a thumbs up in one country is considered an insult or something like that. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that may come
Oh,
from
yeah.
the ancient Roman Colosseum, where they point to their throats to say "kill him." Um,
I'm pretty sorry.
I just wanted to say, I also did find out about another. In England, there's a derogatory term called spastic, and over here it's just another word. It means crazy or um, outgoing or very outgoing. But in England, it's a slang term for people with cerebral palsy. I never knew that before.
I'm pretty sure a thumbs up is offensive in Algeria, I think.
There's a funny one about, I think it's if you burp after your meal in one country, like it's
Korea.
considered really polite, and somewhere
Yeah,
else,
Korea.
well, in most other places, it's sort of obviously rude to burp. at
Word, yeah.
the table, I guess.
It's like the campaign in South Korea.
Yeah.
Well, here where I live, when you greet someone, you do that side kiss. Get up to them and just like kiss them. I
Yep.
think people would really be surprised and maybe even angry if someone just walked up to them and like kissed them as soon as they met. So
Yeah, there's yeah, some people I know who like your personal space. They'd be offended if someone even went to handshake them, And some people have absurd standards, It's like, how could you expect someone to not try to give you a handshake or, something quite common? I mean, I allow people to be rude in certain ways. I mean, I work in customer service, but it's sort of like when you're dealing with different customers, it's like it's not all about me. Their mood and their attitude's got nothing to do with how I'm feeling. So they've got other things going on. So you might misread the politeness, as impoliteness, etc.
Have any of you read the book on migrant crisis? One world, divided world.
Can you repeat?
There is a book that came out like 2 years ago. Called "Divided World, One World, Divided World," on international refugee crises. It was produced by what was it? The American, I think IWW, but it wasn't self-published. It was like their first book they actually legit published.
Okay. What was did you read that book?
I did, and at one point they stated that in the book that with refugee times of refugees coming to a country, so they're basically saying like, well, in America there are a lot of refugees from Mexico, and the idea that that refugees can help fuel an economy by they basically state that if you have so Team A will be a bunch of migrants from Mexico, and Team B would be migrants from a different country, like I guess from the Middle East. They said they somehow rationed it out what based on what people have more bias towards. So if the migrants from Latin America, because of I guess they're continental for various reasons, will have better migrant jobs than people from Team B who are from the Middle East. That's basically the whole thesis of the book. Various refugees from various countries get different advantages based on bias people have already perceived.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, the even looking, there's just a lot of unconscious biases that happen. Yeah, especially to do with the way the media reports different cultures and each individual's sort of experience with that culture, and it's that's quite telling. It makes it very difficult then. You can imagine to be someone from the Middle East who's trying to migrate to another country. Be extremely difficult.
Does anyone have any solutions then for the migrant crisis, or any proposed solutions at least?
Well, there's many how to say, I've discussed with some people, and many proposed the solution. I don't know if this will work, but many said that instead of letting people coming in your country, you should develop the country. That the government should, I don't know, inject some money in those developing countries. So I don't know. What are your views on that?
Well, I mean,
That's the problem because like the U.S. kind of funded the rebels against Assad who turned into ISIS.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's pretty complicated. Well, yeah, they've certainly funded. They certainly funded different states over there over the years, which sort of led to different powers. I mean, that's why we had the Afghanistan war, essentially, why they went to war.
Yeah,
there,
Mujahideen with the Soviets.
to try and undo some of the mess that they'd created, I guess, in some sense. But yeah, it seems that, I mean, it's bad enough that, I mean, I don't know about, obviously, like people are homeless in other countries of the world that aren't in sort of crises, and I just feel like, what do you do if we said tomorrow, let's just let everyone in, let just everyone that's got a developed country, just take everyone in, we'll just clear the place out, just everyone can come in. I mean, a high percentage of those people are going to become homeless, and essentially it sort of comes down to the same problem. Like, if you could somehow address homelessness effectively and systematically somehow, I mean, half the problem's gone. I mean, we can develop completely properties which wouldn't require, it could run off self-sustainable properties, I mean, and which would be very cost-effective, it would seem. But, I mean, no one's prepared to sort of pay for these things and put people in places and try something like this, I guess. I don't know. I've never seen anything like that even addressed for the homeless, let alone refugees, and it's sort of like a confounding problem, it seems.
There was a very weird idea proposed by a politician in Italy who was a democratic socialist, but he was like saying, "Oh, we need to like follow the ideas of Hong Kong and like North Korea, like just make completely big housing complex, like just where no one like pays any rent or like buys property. It's like they're like housing complexes with like no electricity and like tons of bathrooms. It's like
Wogon Famalam, can you make me famous in it?
what?
Is you able
I'm
to
sure.
make me famous?
What?
Okay.
Are you able to make me famous?
Oh, it's a troll.
The fuck are you?
God damn. It's just like, go on. Sorry, go on. Angry.
So I was saying that well, I was just saying that this Italian socialist party member was trying to imply public housing in a format with no electricity, but with that running water or anything, like and as a like kind of like taking an idea from like Singapore, Hong Kong, I guess to imply public housing that you don't have to pay rent for, and it's not even state funded. It's like collectively owned by the people, the migrants.
Yeah, but there is a problem is that I don't know if you have seen the buildings in Hong Kong, but I mean
The
these
empty cities.
yeah, I mean these are buildings that are 50, 60 floors, so I don't know when and also the speed of how they are constructed, those buildings. So I don't know if maybe the US, surely the US have some kind of this technology, but it will have a disastrous effect, I don't know, in landscape, or it's maybe a superficial issue for concerning the landscape, but I mean, yeah, it's
Overpopulation.
it's not the same. It's the same houses that we have in Hong Kong. So
It sort of seems like, I mean, overpopulation of the whole planet. I mean, there's a whole. I mean, it's probably yeah, bit of a problem. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure the rate just keeps increasing, basically, and I don't know where everyone is headed, but I don't know. Everyone just, he seems to be.
Well, I've actually done an entire afternoon of analytics of figuring out like the population versus how many people die each day. It pretty much evens out like 50-50 of probably how many people die and how many people are born each day.
At the moment.
At the moment, we don't know for the 10 years, 20 years, who knows? But at the moment, currently, it's pretty even.
That's fascinating. I feel like there might be a shift the other way, just from people's attitudes. I mean, that attitude that I have is more common than what it was going back a generation. So, be interesting. I don't know. But there's probably environmental factors involved with that too, and the globe, I guess.
I mean, if you want to talk about the things we do in Hong Kong, I'm sure you are all aware of this. But I mean, if this is the kind of solution that your politician is proposing, he's ignoring some factors in some ecology system. I mean, in Hong Kong, we bomb mountains. We bomb them to lower the land and also to fill the sea to expand a little bit our territory. So I'm not sure that it's a kind of good idea to propose Hong Kong to accept many people in mainland China, for example, or in India.
Oh, I mean, yeah, those places they have a population. They have too many people there already. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, when I speak about, I'm talking about countries that are being a bit selfish, like, in my opinion, Australia. I don't know. There's other countries as well, but other European countries, basically. I mean, essentially saying, no, we're not going to do anything. I mean, I don't know how people can just go, sorry, piss off, like, turn your way at the door type thing. I just think that's crazy. But, yeah, I mean, certain countries need people to migrate out of them, I mean, essentially.
Did any of you see Russell Brand's video issue? It kind of pissed me off what he was saying. Like, I don't know if you thought the same thing or not.
Well, I haven't seen Russell Brand's video, but it was by Russell Brand, so I won't be surprised. Can you tell us roughly what he was sort of saying there?
He was just going on and on and on and on about like migrant crisis and trying to like compare it to I guess people like I guess from during World War II, the Jewish and Polish Germans, Jewish Germans and Poles trying to get into England and how they were denying a lot of access to them. But just the way he did it, was just doing it for I don't know, like kind of it was just really pretentious the way he came across in his video a few days ago.
Yeah, it's Nazi cute or something like that.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Europe there is a different kind of mentality. I don't know if I can speak for Quantum, who lives in the UK, but in Europe, contrary to Australia or I don't know, the United States, there is a big sense of I don't know, a cultural identity here. I mean, the history in Europe is just enormous compared to the ones in the United States or in Australia. So they don't want to destroy anything. Basically, I think that's one of the reasons why they don't want to, I don't know, move forward. Yeah, it's basically that. I think so. I may be wrong about that, but
yeah, that's certainly possible reason, potential motive behind some of the countries' attitudes in Europe. I mean, some of them have been exceptional in their response, far greater than Australia or some of the other countries for that matter. But Yeah, I don't know what. I think the UK. I don't know. What's the situation in the UK? They're pretty anti-migrant, aren't they? I mean, they went migrant happy for a while, and then uh, everyone's shitty with that. Was that right, Connor? I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's mostly because the UK is in the EU, so it means that we have no way to control the number of EU migrants into the UK. We can control the number of non-EU migrants, which we have, and we've basically restricted the number of non-EU migrants to virtually zero. But we can't control the number of EU migrants at all. I mean that's why the number of non-EU migrants has been reduced so much. I mean because no matter what political party you are, immigration is a big issue, and I think basically everyone except the Greens want to reduce it. So in order to reduce it, they have to really clamp down on the non-EU migration, which I'm not entirely sure is helpful, because they can't do anything about EU migration at all, because it's EU policy for any person within the free. I'm not sure if it's Schengen. It might be something else, but can freely move. The EU has free movement of people, so I think that's part of where the issue comes from. And there's a referendum coming up in the UK where we want to leave the European Union. I think I would actually be voting to leave the European Union. I mean, out of interest, if you wanted to migrate into the UK, do you know how difficult it would be? I'm interested in your view, Mordred, because you're not in the EU, of course. So if you wanted to come and live in the UK, would it be difficult to do so?
I don't think it would be, from my understanding, because my grandfather was Irish born, and I'm pretty sure my brother was able to get a European passport quite easily. I don't know from that point how easy it is to, become a citizen or become, work and live permanently in the UK. I'm not sure what are the sort of working requirements and those types of things.
I think you'd probably find it quite a lot easier to get an Irish passport than to get a UK one. I think actually it is.
Yeah.
The Irish are very, very generous in that sense, and I think getting an Irish passport is not that difficult as far as I can tell. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, that's part of the problem here that's going on, that the UK has no way of controlling immigration at all, and I think it's counterproductive, because it does sort of I mean, I'm not defending any of the reactionaries, of course, but when you have a situation where you can't control your borders at all, it doesn't make things, it fuels an environment of animosity which is not healthy for anyone, really. I think
if the balloon's about to burst, you're gonna inflate it anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't entirely related to the migrant crisis, because of course that's also a refugee crisis, of course, with refugees from Syria, and as far as I can tell, there's no real issue with accepting migrants from Syria. I mean, the issue is, I suppose, I mean, there are a number of issues, but I guess part of the problem is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of foresight or organisation. The whole thing. I mean, the whole sort of organisation of trying to deal with a bunch of Syrian refugees. It hasn't been done well. The whole situation is very, very much chaotic. I mean, we've got a lot of refugees heading towards Germany. It hasn't been handled well. I mean, and it's not even as if there was no warning given. I mean, I think a lot of people realised that this was going to happen sooner or later. So, the whole thing just didn't seem like that there wasn't any contingency plan at all for this. It just seems so badly thought out, which is, to me, that's not surprising at all, because the EU seems to be all bureaucracy and no substance. But I don't know. What are people's thoughts on it?
The growing concern for me is, I mean, what the hell do they do over there? I mean, obviously, trying to build up the state and then or going to war. I mean, why? Who is it that? I mean, it's just people keep rising up in that area and keep on wanting to kill other people and blow people up and then not live
I mean,
harmoniously, and it's just really frustrating. I mean, that's the core crux of the problem. I mean,
there's a poll done on 6 EU country, but UK excluded, and the poll it's in the WZB website. I don't know if anybody heard of this poll. Nope. So basically,
what's it? If you type
I'll try to type. I'll send the link while speaking. So basically, it's a poll done on more than 9,000 Turks and Moroccans in 6 EU countries. It was a survey, and we're talking about the issues of assimilations of some communities. I mean, more than 60% of them wants religious laws rather than secular laws. And I think more than 40% of them are homophobic and other stuff like that. And I think it's quite troubling to see this kind of. And also, they only polled the Moroccans and the Turks. So imagine if they polled the Algerian, it would be far worse, I think. So yeah, that's basically my point on assimilation.
You said the Greens are the only one promoting the refugees, but who's the new Labour Party guy? Jeremy something. What's his position? I thought he was very pro.
Well, yeah. I mean, he will be. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn is Jeremy Corbyn is basically the biggest threat the Green Party has ever faced. I mean, the Green Party is finished now. But yes, I'm sure the Jeremy Corbyn will be very much pro-refugee. But then, I mean, again, we're all pro-refugee. I don't think that's the problem. The issue is that, I mean, most UK parties want to control immigration to some extent or another. It's just that formerly the only party that didn't want to control immigration at all was the Green Party. Sorry?
What is it? Where does the S&P fall into this? Like, because I thought they're very left wing of the idea of like I'm not sure what their migrant idea is, but isn't the S&P pretty like left wing also?
Yes, the S&P is very left wing, but even so, as far as I can gather, the S&P still wants some degree of control over immigration. So even the far left party in Scotland does want. Actually, the SNP is interesting because I think if Scotland became independent, they would probably limit the number of English immigrants, which is kind of ironic there. But yes, the only party that really wants to completely open borders was the Green Party. But it wouldn't surprise me if Jeremy Corbyn had similar views to that, because he's very, very, very left wing. I mean. I don't know. I mean, he has some rather dubious positions on, let's say that the sort of things that he's been saying sort of implies that he'd be willing to take back people that you probably don't want to be taking back, sort of thing. So I don't know. He doesn't seem very. It doesn't seem like fully screwed on. I don't think, but that's just my opinion.
And what's the name of the new Labour Party leader? I just read a little bit about him yesterday. He looks pretty insane.
Jeremy Corbyn, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, extremely left wing. He wants to. I mean, actually, this is getting a little bit off topic, but he's a hardline socialist. He wants to nationalise everything, really. He wants. I mean, just to give you an idea of some of his more bizarre policies, he wants to make taxes that go towards the armed forces optional. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's going to ever become Prime Minister. I don't think anyone's going to vote Labour now. But as for the refugee crisis, I mean, I think I mean, Jeremy Corbyn doesn't come across as someone that has any degree of pragmatism at all, which I think is something that you have to have. You can't just be idealistic. But that's, again, I think with the refugee crisis, I think we have to accept refugees. Obviously, I think any sane person would say that. But I'm not sure it's a good idea to have completely open borders. I mean, I'm not sure has that ever been tried. I don't know.
I mean, imagine if we have this kind of world today, and all people of ISIS, Al Qaeda coming to Europe, butchering everyone. You know.
That is a possibility, and it's a terrifying one.
Well, it's not really. Well, it's not.
Well,
I mean, it's a small, very small number.
Well, a bit earlier this year, there was some Albania attacks. A lot of them actually here down in Macedonia, which is directly south of me, which has me a bit worried.
Yeah, it's pretty close quarters. Yeah, I mean, that was some argument someone was making online. I can't remember what I was reading, but they were saying that if you're going to let in the refugees, what percentage of them are going to be pro-Islamic or pro-ISIS sort of thing, potentially going to lead to acts of violence in other countries, sort of thing.
I mean, forget those
is that a
who
serious threat
yeah.
anyway? I don't know.
Sorry. But yeah, I mean, forget those who are pro-Islamic. I mean, there are some photos. There are apparently there's a German journalist who recognized a former Al Qaeda member who he interviewed before. So forget those who support ISIS. How many of them are straight members of ISIS?
I think that particular example turned out to be not true. I think I know what you're referring to, but I'm not sure. I mean, I think it turned out that he was actually fighting against ISIS. He was a soldier, not a member.
Oh, you mean a rebel?
Yeah.
Was he? I'm pretty sure I read that. Was he one of the Kurd Workers' Party members?
The Turkish Kurdish. What are you talking about? The PKK?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the Kurdish party in Turkey.
Yeah, they're fighting on the front of ISIS. Wasn't that guy associated with the PKK?
What?
No, the guy you're referencing.
I didn't listen very well. Can you repeat? I'm so sorry.
He was talking about an organisation called the PKK, which is, from what little I know about it, is a sort of quite extreme. It's not as bad as ISIS, but it's a quite extreme group that exists mostly in Turkey, but also in Syria. I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, the whole thing seems quite complicated because I think Turkey is.
Right.
Turkey is. I mean, at the moment, I think I'm given to understand that Turkey has been bombing the PKK, but I think part of the problem is that they're also bombing just regular Kurds as well. So I don't really know too much about exactly what's been going on there, but.
Well, it seems that there are many ex-Muslims activists like Miriam Namaziz or Faisal. I may be wrong about this, but it seems that the PKK has a lot of support from, I don't know, former Muslims or apostates. So yeah. And should we invite Isbatu here, because he was a Turkish guy? He could maybe elude us a little bit of this situation.
I mean, he might come back. I don't know.
I'm not sure if we have exhausted the topic. Probably haven't exhausted it because it's not certainly not solvable or anything. But does anyone have any
What
other
I'm wondering also,
plans for that?
I've been wondering where, like, I've been hearing a lot about Australia rejecting people. But what about New Zealand?
New Zealand, I'm pretty sure is like anyone can come here, sort of thing. I think they are pretty open to people coming to New Zealand. I could be wrong. I'll have a check up. I'll have a look online if I can find some figures.
I'm reading a little bit about the PKK. They don't seem really Islamists. They are more. I may be wrong, but they look more like a radical left-wing group than an Islamist group.
Well, I'm not.
Who does?
I don't really know too much about this because because I know that Turkey has been bombing the PKK. I mean, according to Turkey, they're supposedly a terrorist group. I don't exactly know what they are because I'm not sure if they're related to just ordinary Kurds, and of course, you know, the Kurds are on our side. I don't really know that. I'm a little bit skeptical about it. Yeah. So is that topic of conversation exhausted?
I could talk a little bit about how the mainlanders in China are perceived in Hong Kong, but I think that we all exhausted our arguments, on this topic.
Well, we covered that one yesterday, didn't we? With the Does anyone have an idea of a topic? We could just finish early.
I actually have to get going pretty soon myself, but I mean, don't let that influence your decision.
Do we continue to this topic, or do you want to move on?
Selwyn's just joined us. Did you have any input you wanted to add, Selwyn? Because we're running out of things to say.
Oh.
This is where we really need Nathaniel to come in, because he's great at this sort of thing.
There's something I did want to bring up. Actually, how many of you are quantum? Did you hear what Sargon of Akkad is trying to do recently?
Sargon of Akkad.
He's trying to do this thing where he's trying to like make a debate forum, like I guess like Reddit, but he's going to create it and he's like going to advertise it all over London buses and tube stations.
No, I hadn't heard anything about it. How's this supposed to work?
I found New Zealand's migration statistics. Fascinatingly, this was from December 2013. They had a gain of 22,468 migrants to the country, compared to they lost 1,165 people in 2012. So I think they're just pretty much open to anyone heading over there, based on that. I mean, you have to apply for a humanitarian visa, or you have to apply for a working visa, or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's the same problem with yesterday. I mean, I don't think that everybody in his right minds are how to say against the refugees, and unfortunately, I think we all are in the same page here. So we really should bring some.
I have a hard time with some people that live in my country. I'm happy to move them out if there's some refugees that want to move in.
Well, yeah, Shwayne, just talk. Just.
Did you want to make your point then, Selwyn? Because we can still talk about that. This is the one where too many people agree with you. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know what you guys have talked, so maybe we'll just repeat what was already talked. I live in Sweden. I am an immigrant myself. I came from South America and I'm living here. About the refugee situation, I think that is morally commendable that countries take refugee, but I don't see as a moral obligation that countries have to take refugees. I don't see down to countries that decide that they don't want to take or want to take less or not. While I think that's quite commendable that we take refugees, however, I think that each country should look to the economical and social situation of the country and decide a fair amount that they can take so that both they will have economy to take care and the integration will be possible. As Sweden, we had to take quite a lot of refugees. While it sounds very humanitarian, it has some downsides, especially in the social situation. We have areas that we have already have problems between Christians and Muslims refugees. Some Christians refugees, they were kicked out from the building and they needed to live somewhere else. So I think that it would be very important that we maybe should take less refugees in Sweden and see that the refugees that we take, they are integrated in our society. And when I say integrated, it's not that they need to leave their ways. What I think is important in the West is that we respect that we are different, that when they come here, they will not force people in their communities to live in the way that they want, but they respect the liberties that we have around. I think that's basically this that I would like to say.
Well, concerning your point of integration, are you including some Muslims or Turks? Because the poll that I mentioned while you were offline, it was I'll repeat myself. Sorry, it was 9,000 Moroccan and Turks in polled in 6 countries. France was included, and also Sweden. And again, I said that more than 60% of them are rather rather favor religious constitution rather than a secular constitution. So when you say that immigrants in general are well integrated in Sweden, are you including this Muslim demographic?
No, I'm not sure if I made myself clear. I'm not saying that they are well integrated. There are some people that are well integrated, but there are some areas that they are not integrated at all. And in those areas, many times we have people from many different ethnicities and cultures. But some areas where they are mostly when they are Muslim areas, then it's very difficult to integrate. And when people that doesn't want to live in that way, they have economic possibilities, they move away from the areas, which help to the area be less and less integrated. But I think that all countries have this problem with ghettos that are formed that are not integrated.
Yeah. So, yep.
But a problem that I see in Sweden concerning refugees, for instance, everybody that comes from Syria, they can get I don't know how to translate, but they can stay permanently in the country. They don't have a temporary visa, for instance. That I think is a problem. I think that they should give a temporary, give it 5 years, doesn't matter, and see how the situation will develop.
Mm-hmm.
That give a permanent visa in the country.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, even in France, who are complaining about this as well, so.
Question about the refugee crisis from in Europe. Is it more of a controversy from people from the Middle East versus Africa, or vice versa?
I think
So
it'd be more controversial for people that were coming from Africa, on the basis that it would be harder for them to justify a refugee status. I mean, I think in the UK the main controversy is economic migrants and not refugees. And I'm not exactly. I mean, the argument I suppose you could do is that people are overestimating the number of economic migrants and underestimating the number of refugees, maybe. But the controversy seems to mainly be, there doesn't seem to be any controversy with regards to taking Syrian refugees. It seems to mostly be people taking advantage of the system to better themselves economically, which is understandable, but it is something that is pretty controversial in any case.
well, in the United States, contrary to Europe, in the United States we don't have I don't know a racial statistic or things like that. And when people say that they overestimate the economic migrants, but the thing that we forget is that these people, how to say, have families. They will have children in the afterwards, and these children, in the first generation, already doesn't well assimilate in the society. The second generation will follow this kind of path. So it's not. I don't think it's a matter of the numbers of the migrant, but of the numbers of certain people type of origin. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Quantum Offward, I just thought of his question now about what you said about the controversy between migrant workers. Could you, in your own opinion, draw a connection between migrant worker salary and fiat money current?
Well,
Sorry, could you repeat? I didn't quite catch the last bit.
Could you, in relation to migrant workers and refugees, related to the idea of their wages or getting paid as the idea of fiat currency?
normally it's illegal to pay under the minimum wage. So, but yeah, there are some how to say illegal. We call it in French travail au noir. That is to say, black, basically black market working. So yeah, it's indeed it's a kind of issue here. So.
Well, I mean, in the UK, I mean, even if people play by the book, I think that I'm not necessarily saying this is true. I'm not entirely sure, but there's certainly a worry that big corporations in particular could take advantage of migrants, and by doing so, I mean, because of course the sort of the willingness to do for migrants to do jobs is probably greater than that of most people in the UK. So I guess there's a worry that people's wages are going to be undercut by migrants coming from overseas, and I think that's part of the reason why people in general want to control immigration. I think the wage undercutting argument is the one that people all across the spectrum are worried about. But also, I mean, it's not just that. It's also, I guess, people are worried about population increases as well, and I guess social cohesion is another one. And I suppose things like, I suppose the general difficulties that come with a population increase, things like housing and school places, that sort of thing. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It does. I was mainly going for the idea about, okay, so like corporations like in America take tons. Like I guess like Monsanto is the poison company. I can't. It's something Monsanto. It's like poison they spray crops for corn. And it's like starts with an M and ends with an S. The entire company and like their affiliates are like completely worked by like all the work is done by illegal immigrants and undocumented citizens and refugees from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras. And the problem is that the working conditions are so bad, and that they get away with it during loopholes. Like 90% of the tobacco industry in America, like tobacco is being picked by like Latin American kids ages like 12 to 14, and somehow they're getting paid legally because of like it's like whatever reason, but they're using the idea of fiat money to back it up.
Well, the majority, unlike America, I think the majority of big corporations, they found the loophole, and the loophole it's not engaging illegal migration. It's moving their it's moving their firms, their how shall we say it, their factories in developing countries. So we don't have this in France, especially. We don't have this kind of issues about big corporations getting illegal migrants in France. It's more about big corporation leaving France.
I think the conversation seems to be more or less exhausted now, though. I suppose we could end early because we seem to have covered most things, and I can't see anyone else arriving this late. So, what do people think? Unless there's another burning topic of conversation that is to be had, perhaps we should end a little bit early today. Tumbleweeds.
I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. If everybody is on the same page, it's
Yes, I concur on that one too.
Yeah.
I concur. I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we should, as H.S. Roos say, put it out of its misery. So.
Yeah. So I guess we'll end early today.
Yeah.
But it's been a good conversation. I think everything.
Can I ask one thing before you end up?
Sorry?
I just like to ask something. We talk about this refugee crisis now. The war in Syria has been, and in Iraq has been for years. Do you guys know why just now suddenly we got a crisis and not before?
Well, I think it's just because ISIS is so, how to say, mediatisé. So we focus so much attention in it. So yeah, it's quite strange why we suddenly have this altruism to let people in. Yeah, it's quite strange indeed.
I think that the amount of refugees that suddenly we have a crisis when those things are happening for more than years. In Iraq, 1 year, but in Syria for more than years. I think it is strange that just now it exploded.
Well, it's maybe the Syrian boy who was drowned and how the media covered it. I mean, there was a shifting. As I said at the very beginning of the hangout, there was a shifting position in in a week before the Syrian boy photo, or at the very beginning. The majority of French people didn't want to let refugees in. But after a week later, 9% of those who are not favoring the refugees turn to the other side, switch sides. So I think it's maybe conspiracy, but I think it has a lot of to do with this little boy. It may be a crazy thing to say, but yeah.
This is why we need Nathaniel in here. He's very, very, very good at filling the blank moments. Because I think part of the problem is having we had the hangout on the refugee crisis yesterday, and I think doing it again, you feel sometimes that the topic has been exhausted. Yeah.
So
Just ended early.
I mean,
Okay, let's do that then. It's gonna take me a while to work out how to end the bloody thing as well. Give me a second. Oh, actually, I've got to say something that the hangout is we'll do another show in 2 weeks' time. I'm not sure what it'll be on yet. Probably something more controversial to attract more interest. But please follow this Google Plus account with this avatar, so you can get fortnightly invites to the Supernatural Side show. And thanks everyone. And now I'm going to work out how to stop it.
okay.